Hey guys, it's Dr. Jen Caudle. Hello to all of you. I wanted to come and talk to you guys about something that you send me messages about every single week, and that is how I got involved in medical broadcasting. I love all of your messages. I get them on LinkedIn, Twitter, Instagram, you name it, Facebook, and unfortunately I can't always respond, and I hate that. I hate that I can't always respond and tell you my story or make time for a call. So apologies in advance, but that's why I wanted to make this video to tell you about my story, because I know that so many of you have asked. Before we get started, this is my YouTube channel. Thank you for joining me. I would love it if you guys would subscribe, click the little button. And the reason why, though, is because my usual videos are about, like health news that you can use, health tips you can use in everyday life. But I also talk about lots of quirky health things as well. So if you're interested in any of that stuff, please, again, subscribe and click the little bell. Okay, so let's just jump right in, guys. Okay, so who am I? What am I doing? My name, again, is Dr. Jennifer Caudle. I go by Dr. Jen. That's how a lot of people know me on television and beyond. I'm actually a board-certified family physician. I'm an osteopathic physician, so I went to DO medical school. And I've actually been at the making of this video. I've been in practice for, actually, this month is my 10th year anniversary of being in practice. Oh, as an attending. I know. Cray. I can't even believe it. But I love my profession. I absolutely do. My current job is, so what do I spend my time doing? I'm an associate professor at Rowan University School of Osteopathic Medicine. I see patients. I am also the clerkship director for the third year family medicine clerkship. And then I also do lots of medical media work, medical broadcasting. So those are the three buckets that my week is divided between. So let me go back and just sort of explain a few things. Those of you who don't know anything about me, totally cool. Hello, how you doing? As Wendy Williams would say. Oh my God, I love her. Maybe the reason why you're watching is because you know my work on TV. Right now, and actually for the last few years, I appear on TV sometimes 150, 175 times a year on television. I go on many different networks, from NBC Nightly News and PBS to CNN, Fox News, HLN. But I also do daytime television, so I love going on the Rachel Ray Show. I've done 35 plus episodes of the Dr. Oz Show at the time that I've made this video. Let's see here. I've gone on Steve Harvey. I actually went on the Steve Harvey Show looking for love. I was looking for a date, so I wasn't giving medical information. You should really peep that video. It's in my playlist. But that was a fun episode where I got to show sort of a personal side and look for love. But I'm trying to think of what other type of TV I do. So we talked about the news, daytime television. And I also do other things. So I do a lot of print too. So I contribute quotes and things like that to newspapers, magazines, things like USA Today, Good Housekeeping, Cosmopolitan, etc. Whether they're online or whether they're in print. It's always, guys, a big win to get in print. So if you ever have the opportunity, totally take it. And I also do radio and podcasts. I do Sirius XM radio, many shows on Sirius XM. I've done many podcasts. So I literally do a lot of different type of media work, and I love it. And that's probably why you're here. Many of you want to know how I got involved in that aspect of the work that I do. So we're going back again. All right, so let's back up. I've been in practice for 10 years, did 3 years of residency before that, took a couple years off. After college, I had the unique opportunity to compete in the Miss America pageant as Miss Iowa 1999. I throw that in because, number one, that wasn't really my life's plan, but it was an amazing opportunity that helped me pay for college. But the second reason I bring that up is because during that time, before I got into med school, it was like a year and a half, 2 years before med school that I was Miss Iowa. Even though I didn't win Miss America, which was devastating, by the way, but even though I didn't win Miss America, I traveled around the state of Iowa, 5,000 miles every month, speaking. I spoke at school ceremonies, ribbon cutting ceremonies. I was in cornfields. It's Iowa, But the relevance of that is the speaking part. I learned that I love to communicate. I learned that I love to speak. I learned that I love to connect with people in that way. So then fast forward to medical school, which was always my plan. At least in college and a little bit beyond. When I was, I would say, first, second year medical student, I still kept up some public speaking work that had sort of trickled over from my time in the Miss America pageant, which I loved. But it was also that time that I started wondering about, I'd watch the news, I'd watch the news and I'd be like, so how did they pick that health study to talk about? And, well, how did they come to that conclusion? And how do they know what's relevant? How do the reporters know? I started to become curious about how news stations communicate health information. And that interest just kind of grew. And this is a story I tell all the time. One of the reasons why I'm doing this video with you guys is I really believe in the power of learning other people's stories. And for students and med students who come to me and ask me about advice and stuff, one of the things I always say is to watch and look and learn from other people. One of the things I'll invite you guys to do is to subscribe to not only my YouTube channel, but also follow me on Twitter and Instagram and Facebook. I'm at Dr. Jen Caudle. The reason for that is not because I'm hawking for new followers. The reason is that one of the ways I learned about medical broadcasting was by watching other people who did it. I watched how they did it. I watched what they did. I watched how, when, where, what. I read about their story. People's stories can give you a lot of information. So I was on rotation. I was a third-year medical student on my clinicals, and I was in the hospital on internal medicine, and we were waiting for our attending. We were getting ready to round. We rounded on that rotation. We were rounding late in the afternoon. We'd finished our patients. We were waiting for the attending to come so we could round. And somehow we all got into this conversation about, I don't know, the news or something. And my resident on service had told me at that time, she said, oh, well, I did a medical broadcasting rotation at the local TV station. I said, what's that? She goes, oh, yeah. And she was a student at Philadelphia College of Osteopathic Medicine. And I believe the station, I'm not sure where she did it at exactly, but I think it was 6 ABC News here in Philadelphia. And I said, wait, what do you mean? And she told me she went to the news station every day, and she told me what it was like, and that it was something that that was an option to her when she was a student. And this is the power of stories, right? It literally piqued my interest. I was like, wait, what is this? Where do I find this? Who are these people? And I think literally that day I went home, or maybe the next day, and picked up the phone and called 6 ABC News in Philadelphia. Shout out to ABC News, 6 ABC News, thank you. And literally I got this nice woman, and she connected me with like the internships department, and I worked out a way with my med school to do an elective rotation at 6 ABC News in Philadelphia. It was an amazing experience. It was very eye-opening. I did a lot of, what interns do. There was a lot of scut work involved, but there was a lot of going on shoots, which was amazing. I rode around in the van with reporters. I got to know cameramen. And I knew I only had 30 days because, being in medical school, I knew I couldn't do lots of TV internships. So I worked as hard as I could. I stayed late. I came early, kind of like what medical students and attending or residents do when you're in training. And I wanted to get something on tape because I thought that was my only opportunity, at least for a while, and it was. So I put together some stand-ups. That's when you're sort of standing up with a microphone, and I said, "Hi, I'm Jennifer Caudle, and today, I look back at those tapes and I'm like, oh my gosh. But it was really amazing. For me, it was an amazing opportunity and an amazing experience. I wrote the stand-ups and things, and I would literally shoot them whenever I could, in between when the reporter was shooting. And I would go into 6 ABC News in the middle of the night because that's when the editors had some time and they were willing to help me out, just a young med student trying to do something. And they cut my tape for me. And as long as I could get there like around 12, 1 in the morning where they had time, they would shoot tape, they would cut tape, and I'm really grateful for them, all the guys and women that I met there. So that was my first sort of month in that experience, and I had a little reel, very, very amateur reel, but I had something. My next 2 years, I was a third and fourth year medical student, so I was focused on boards, right? Wasn't doing any medical broadcasting by any means at all, but I was trying to learn more and more about it. And coming up into my internship year, I learned that ABC News in New York has a medical broadcasting rotation for residents. Now, I'm telling you guys all of this stuff because stories are important, and these are some of the things that I learned, and this was part of my path, like how I got started, which is what so many of you asked. So I hope this is really helpful. But ABC News, they still have their medical broadcasting rotation for residents. This was something I applied for, and as an intern, I was able to do an elective rotation. Back then, the medical broadcasting unit now, as of right now, is in New York City, but back then it was in Needham, Massachusetts. And I remember packing up my car, throwing stuff in the car, and I rented a room from a friend of a friend of a friend for a month. I jumped in the car and I drove to Boston, and it was amazing. Dr. Tim Johnson was the physician that was the doctor for ABC News then, and I helped write stories and do fact checking and looking at articles and talking through data. I was able to go in on meetings. I was actually able to do some on-air stuff too for abcnewsnow.com. That's their their online streaming news, which was a really amazing experience for me. And that was just a month too, but it was really awesome, and it helped to continue to stoke this fire within me of like, wow, this is amazing. I guess one thing I haven't talked about is why this all seems so amazing to me. For me, communication has always been the key. When I'm in an office, in the room talking to a patient or their spouse or their family, I can only talk to one person or maybe 3 or 4 max at a time. But when I am able to write an article or provide a quote or appear on television, it's literally talking to potentially millions. And that's a blessing to me, to be able to spread health information to a large number of people. That's really always been something I've wanted to do. And I say that because TV, I think, looks very glamorous sometimes on the outside. And there are really glamorous aspects of it. I get to wear false eyelashes all the time, which I love. Now I don't even like to leave the house without them. Hair and makeup, always fun. There's a lot of fun things. But the truth of the matter is it's a lot of work. And I think it's sometimes more work than people know. It's a lot of waking up in the middle of the night. It's a lot of research and doing things very last minute and sometimes not even knowing what your schedule is going to be like. Those are the things I happen to love about it, but it's something I think people should know because sometimes it's not exactly what it seems to be or what it looks. So back to my story. So now I'm an intern. And of course I go back with my medical training. There's really no other opportunity to do other internships because I'm working to be a doctor. But one thing I did do during my residency was, this was back like in the early 2000s. We didn't call them blogs then, and we really didn't have like a lot of the stuff that we have now. But I did do a newsletter, and it was called The Health Update. The Health Update, if you Google, you might still find some old old newsletters. And I purchased a subscription from Constant Contact, and the company that helps you send mass newsletters. And I would design this newsletter every month or two, and I'd put health facts that people could use and might benefit from. And that was my way of continuing my desire to communicate outside the office. Since I was a resident and I wasn't a licensed physician, I had some of my attendings review my articles just to make sure they were factually correct. I always identified myself as a resident physician. These things are very, 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 very important. Especially when you're giving health information, you want to make sure that you are credentialed and that you have the knowledge and the skill set and the credentials that allows you to do this. Because remember, potentially people's health and potentially their lives could be affected by what you say or what you do. So keep that in mind. But so my attendings proofread everything that I did, and I would send this out to any family member or friend who would let me put them on my mailing list. I also look for local publications. Like there is a local publication here in South Jersey called South Jersey Mom Magazine and a few others that I literally called up. Sometimes if you look at the back of a publication, like in your hometown or whatever, you can sometimes find the editor information, the publisher information, things like that, contact. I literally called them up and said, hey, I'm a medical resident. I'd like to write an article about back to school for kids, for your audience, or an article on the flu shot. So those are things I did too. And I had my attendings proofread the work that I was doing and make sure it was okay. And I sort of had support in that way. So, that was a really exciting time for me because it confirmed what I thought, which is that being able to talk about health information outside the office is a blessing and it's a privilege. I take this very, very seriously, and I never take it for granted. So moving forward, I'm going to try not to be too long-winded because who likes long-winded videos? But anyway, moving forward, so After that, I actually graduated from residency and took my first job. I was at the Johns Hopkins University Sinai Hospital program in internal medicine. So I worked in internal medicine even though I'm a family doctor. I was doing straight up internal medicine, teaching Hopkins medical students and Joint Hopkins residents. In my first 2 years of practice, I had no time. I worked 60 plus hours a week. It was intense. I did no media. Didn't even look for opportunities really. I did do some commercials for the health system I worked for in Baltimore, Sinai Hospital, and that was really awesome. But I was just completely working, doing medicine. And then I took a little bit of time off, and when I came back to Rowan, which was the medical school that I went to, which was actually called UMD&J School of Osteopathic Medicine, which is the position I have now, I had a little bit more experience and more time to kind of pursue this. And since I've been back, I guess it's been the last, what year is it? So I'd say the last 7 or 8 years, I've really been doing TV a lot. I did my first national appearance on CNN in 2013. Before that, I was just doing local in Philadelphia. And then, and just to give you an idea of my schedule, sometimes I would wake up at around 2 or 3 in the morning. A car would come and pick me up, and I'd go to New York. I would, or they would take me up the night before, and I'd stay in a hotel. I would go to New York. I would do a hit, which is what we call a medical, a segment, hit at like 6:30 in the morning. Car would drive me back to Philadelphia. I would sometimes be in the office by 10 or 11 o'clock in the morning to see patients for the rest of the day. So I've always been a practicing doctor. How much I've practiced is dependent on, when I was in my career. When I first started out, I was practicing full-time. Actually practiced full-time, seeing patients every day of the week, except for Fridays, up until maybe 2 or 3 years ago. Now I see patients a day and a half a week. I teach my course 1 day a week, and then I do media about 2 days a week. But to be honest with you, I do media all the time, because sometimes I get called to do media on the weekends, and at night, in the morning. So that's a little bit about my journey and my path and how I got here, and I still do. I pitch my own stories. I do not have a PR person. I've had a PR person 2 different times, 3 months each, because I had specific goals. So in my career, I've had a total of 6 months of PR. I do have an agent now. I've only had an agent probably for the last 3 or 4 years of my career. It's actually sometimes pretty difficult to get an agent, so I feel very, very lucky in that regard. But I do all of my own pitching myself. I pitch stories to producers. I'm always online seeing what stories are out there. And of course, with my YouTube channel, I'm always posting stories and things like that, and communicating with you guys through social media. But this is what I would say, when I come back to the blessing that it is and the opportunity, I always feel like I'm a fan of any health professional who wants to get involved in media, because I always feel like the people who should be talking about health are those who do health. And so I encourage any of you, if you're in the health professions field, and even if you're not, maybe you're not in health professions, but you're interested in doing broadcasting work. The phrase "reach for your dreams" is overutilized, but it couldn't be more important to keep in mind. I also want to say once again, this is not easy. I spend a lot of time on trains, on Amtrak, going up and down to New York. I miss things, I miss functions. I sometimes am, like I said, up in the middle of the night. Sometimes I get only an hour or 2 of notice before I have to go on television. And what that means is it's almost like cramming for an oral test. I was on HLN earlier this week, and I think I got notice for the topic maybe an hour and a half or 2 hours before I went on air. So, it's a certain type of a lifestyle, definitely. You don't get 2 weeks to prepare for segments. Sometimes with daytime TV you do. But with breaking news, sometimes it means that I'm literally in a car going to the station, and I'm reading and I'm reading and I'm reading and trying to figure things out, and trying to wrap my head around a story and what's going on. And there's a certain amount of flexibility that certainly is involved with this. I feel really lucky that Rowan University is my employer, Rowan's University School of Osteopathic Medicine. They've been amazing, and as time has gone on, they've allowed me more and more time to be able to do medical broadcasting, which has always been a big question of physicians. So anyway, I know I'm just blabbering. There's so much more to tell, but I wanted to at least give you an idea of how I got involved in this, which is a big question you guys have, and kind of what my life is like now. So again, I'm on TV over 150 times a year. I do love to connect with you guys on social media. Feel free to reach out to me. I will do my best to respond. I can't always, but I always try. But yeah, make sure that you subscribe to my channel and click the little bell to get updates so you can see the types of videos that I'm producing. But also follow me on social, and that way you can connect with me and see more of my story. So guys, thank you so much, and I will talk to you soon. Bye.